Aloha! Today we'll be going on a tour of the most populated island in Hawaii, Oʻahu. Get ready and enjoy the ride. Let's go! To start off our tour, we're headed to the town of Kailua. In Hawaiian, Kailua means two seas, kai meaning ocean and lua meaning two. It has this name because of the two former fish ponds in the district, Kawainui and Kaʻelepulu, or the two currents which run through Kailua Bay. Kailua Bay has many beaches, including this one, Kalama Beach. It's a great alternative to the much more popular and well-known Kailua Beach, which is consistently rated among one of the most beautiful beaches in the world, but also packed with people. The area was named Kalama after Queen Kalama, the wife of King Kamehameha III, who previously owned the land in the Kailua area. The bay is flanked by the local Marine Corps base on the left. While it was once a sleepy town, today Kailua is a very developed suburb of sorts and a frequented spot by locals and tourists alike. While this development is very interesting to see, it has also inevitably led to talks about gentrification, the process of a previously less developed area being changed by wealthier people moving in, improving housing, and attracting new businesses, typically displacing current inhabitants in the process. Next, we're headed to the beautiful Ho'omalahia Botanical Gardens. The gardens are approximately 400 acres and managed by the city and county of Honolulu. The Ho'omalahia Dam, which was later developed into the Ho'omalahia Botanical Gardens, was built by U.S. Army Corps engineers in 1982 for flood protection. The dam created a 32-acre lake on the Kamo'oali'i stream, which is now a key landmark on the property. The Ho'omalahia Garden, rightfully meaning a peaceful refuge in Hawaiian, is a rainforest garden, with plantings from major tropical regions around the world, grouped into distinct collections that focus on Africa, India and Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Melanesia, and more. Special emphasis is placed on conserving plants native to Hawaii and Polynesia. This kind of conservation work is increasingly important as plants native to the Hawaiian Islands are increasingly at risk for extinction. Now we're headed to the Byodo-in Temple located in the Temple Valley Memorial Park. It was established on June 7, 1968 to commemorate the 100-year anniversary of the first Japanese immigrants to Hawaii. The temple we see here is a smaller-scale replica of the 969-year-old Byodo-in Temple, a United Nations World Heritage Site in Uji, Japan. Byodo-in, meaning Temple of Equality in Japanese, is a non-practicing Buddhist temple which welcomes people of all faiths to worship, meditate, or simply appreciate its beauty. The bell house contains a 5-foot-high, 3-ton brass sacred bell cast in Osaka, Japan. The bell is customarily rung before one enters the temple to spread the eternal teachings of Buddha. Ringing the bell is also said to purify the mind of evil spirits and temptation, while bringing you happiness, blessings, and a long life. The Byodo-in Temple is home to Amida, a golden 9-foot Buddha carved by the famous Japanese sculptor Masuzo Inui. You must take off your shoes before entering the temple and lighting incense. This temple is a testament to the immense Japanese influence in Hawaii and disproportionate presence of Buddhism compared to other states in America. I'm getting hungry, so let's go to Waiahole Poi Factory for some Hawaiian food. Waiahole Poi Factory was a fully functioning poi factory from 1905 to 1971, an art gallery from 1971 to the 1980s, and then an incubator kitchen for local families to rent out and try different food processing ideas until 2007, when it was transformed into the restaurant it is today. It's only serving takeout now, so let's head to Kualoa Beach Park to eat our food. We got kalua pig, a kind of shredded pork, lau, pork wrapped in cooked taro leaves, squid luau, a kind of stew made with squid, taro leaves, and coconut milk, chicken long rice, a noodle dish that was originally Chinese but adopted by locals, haupia, a coconut milk-based dessert, lomi lomi salmon, a side dish made with fresh tomato and salmon salad, and of course, poi, the traditional staple food in the Polynesian diet made from taro, or as we say in Hawaiian, kalo. Kualoa Beach Park is also very close to Kualoa Ranch, a popular Hollywood filming destination where movies and TV shows like Jurassic Park, Lost, Hawaii Five-0, Jumanji, Godzilla, and more were filmed. Let's head north to Turtle Bay. Turtle Bay Resort originally opened in 1972 under a different name and owner, but today is a sprawling resort including a hotel, beach cottages, villas, and a golf course. The resort offers easy access to the beach for its guests, but even though it's a private resort, the public is also able to access the beaches adjacent to the resort. This is because in Hawaii, all beaches are state property and thus open to the public. In the past, some private landowners have attempted to conceal or block public beach accesses. Although this is a public offense and a misdemeanor, the behavior unfortunately continues to this day. Actions like these are reminiscent of the land grabbing by colonizers when they first arrived in Hawaii, forcing the native people off of their own land, which is why the government does as much as it can to protect access to these public lands. Now let's go to the Pupukea area to see some more of the North Shore. Pupukea means white shell, pupu meaning shell, and kea meaning white. It is home to many of the world's most famous surfing spots and gorgeous beaches. My personal favorite beach, Sunset Beach, is located here in Pupukea. As the name suggests, it is known for its gorgeous sunsets as you get a clear view of the sun setting in the west. The legendary Bonsai Pipeline is also located in Pupukea. Many surf competitions take place here and at other beaches on the North Shore, since it's known for its huge swells in the wintertime. Pipeline's average wave is already a whopping 9 feet, but can get as big as 30 feet. This is one of the reasons why it's often referred to as one of the world's deadliest waves. Even very experienced surfers have died here, so be sure to read the lifeguard's warning signs before getting in the water. Bonsai Bowls, a local shop selling acai bowls, is also named after this beach. Now that we've finished our journey on the North Shore, let's head south to the downtown area of Honolulu. First, let's check out Chinatown. Oahu's Chinatown is one of the oldest in the United States. It was established during the 1840s and 50s when Chinese laborers immigrated to Hawaii to work on the sugar plantations. Many of these laborers moved to Chinatown and became merchants when their contracts at the plantations lapsed. The area has had a difficult history, including 2 disastrous fires in 1886 and 1900, which both destroyed most of the neighborhood. The area was also home to the first case of a bubonic plague epidemic in Oahu. The epidemic was largely overseen by the United States' first Board of Health, established by King Kamehameha III. Chinatown, despite its name, has always been relatively ethnically diverse in Honolulu, with only 52% of the population being Chinese at its peak. This is partially due to the 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act, where the U.S. government banned immigration of Chinese laborers, leading to immigrants from other countries like Japan, the Philippines, and Portugal to immigrate to Hawaii and subsequently inhabit Chinatown. During World War II, Chinatown was a hotspot for the large military population stationed on Oahu. Today, while it is definitely still home to some of the more traditional elements you would expect to see in a Chinatown, parts of it have also developed into a hip art scene, so art galleries, thrift shops, and bookstores are all very common. Now let's walk over to the Hawaii State Capitol. This is where the executive and legislative branches perform the duties involved in governing the state. The Hawaii State Legislature, composed of the 25-member Hawaii State Senate and the 51-member Hawaii State House of Representatives, convenes in this building. The governor and lieutenant governor both have their offices here. This Capitol building was opened in 1969, 10 years after Hawaii became a state. Before it opened, Iolani Palace, which we'll see soon, was the official state house. The architecture of the Hawaii State Capitol is also very significant. Unlike many other state capitals that attempt to model the U.S. Capitol, this building has distinct architectural features that symbolize various natural aspects of Hawaii. For example, the building is surrounded by a reflecting pool, symbolizing the Pacific Ocean, and the 2 legislative chambers are cone-shaped, symbolizing volcanoes that formed the Hawaiian Islands. Directly behind the Capitol is Iolani Palace. This is a very special place for many reasons. Iolani Palace, the only royal residence on U.S. soil, was home to the rulers of the Kingdom of Hawaii, beginning with Kamehameha III under the Kamehameha dynasty in 1845, and ending with Queen Liliuokalani in 1893 under the Kalakaua dynasty, founded by her brother, King David Kalakaua. What ended Queen Liliuokalani's rule in 1893 was the illegal overthrow of the Hawaiian monarchy, orchestrated by the white sugar planter elite who were aided by the U.S. government. Threatened by military action, Queen Liliuokalani was forced to abdicate her throne. 2 years later, in 1895, there was an attempt by monarchy loyalists to restore the queen to power. The government allegedly found documents implicating Liliuokalani in the plot and subsequently imprisoned her in her own home, Iolani Palace, for 9 months. In 1930, the interior of the palace was fully remodeled, and it also served as the military headquarters during World War II. Finally, after the official government state house moved to the Hawaii State Capitol building, an organization called the Friends of Iolani Palace, led by the grandniece of Queen Kapi'olani, Liliuokalani Kawananakoa Morris, fully restored the palace based on the original plans. The palace opened to the public in 1978 and remains a historical house museum to this day. Across the street from Iolani Palace is Ali'iolani Hale. King Kamehameha V originally commissioned this building as a palace, but quickly realized Hawaii severely lacked a government building, so it was instead used for that purpose. It was actually from this building that the white sugar planter elite deposed Queen Liliuokalani. Today, it houses the Hawaii State Supreme Court. However, what might be most notable about it for the bystander is the statue of King Kamehameha the Great outside of the building. The statue was originally commissioned in 1878, but when it was on its way to Hawaii from Europe, the ship wrecked. A new statue was reordered, which is the statue that stands here today. The original statue stands in Kapa'au on the Big Island at the birthplace of King Kamehameha. Our last stop on our Oʻahu tour is the famous Waikiki. This is the iconic area of Oahu that many of you have probably seen in movies or think of when envisioning Hawaii. Ironically, this is the most inauthentic part of Hawaii. Today's Waikiki caters almost entirely to tourists, especially those from Japan. The Japanese make up the largest group of inbound international travelers to the islands, and many of them stay in Waikiki. Waikiki has a long history of being the tourist area of Oahu. In 1893, one of the first beach resorts was created in Waikiki. It became a popular destination for mainland tourists. Development boomed due to demand, and the area became filled with large resort hotels, such as the Hilton Hawaiian Village, Halekulani, the Hyatt Regency Waikiki, and more. These complemented historic hotels dating back to the early 20th century, such as the Moana Surfrider Hotel and the Royal Hawaiian Hotel. Waikiki was also popularized by the extremely talented waterman Duke Kahanamoku in the early 1900s. Although he was originally a surfer using 16-foot longboards to surf in Waikiki, he also became an Olympic swimmer, winning several medals over the course of his career. The fame brought on by his Olympic success called attention to his other accomplishments in surfing, eventually influencing many people around the world to learn how to surf and making Waikiki a worldwide surfing hotspot. Mahalo for joining me on this tour of Oahu. I hope you enjoyed and learned something new. And as we say in Hawaiian, a hui ho, or until we meet again.